So if it takes Terry 2 hours, or T hours, how long does it take Callie to prepare it? 2 hours faster than Terry, so it's T minus 2. Yep. If they work together, they can do the entire perspective in how long? 5 hours. 5 hours, right there. How long will it take each of them working alone to prepare the prospectus? Okay, so what's the next column I have to put in? Those of you that have, we've done this in class, we've done these several times. We did them last month, we did them last week. What's the next column I should put in? Nope. In how long? Yes. Work done in 1 hour. If it was in minutes, you could be per minute, whatever the unit of time is, hours, minutes. Just make sure it's consistent. So if it takes Terry T hours to do the job, how much of the job does he do in 1 hour?
1 over T.
Yes, no, Terry is 1 over T. What about Callie? T minus 2. And together, how much of it is in 1 hour? 1 over what? 5. So Nick, what's the equation I can now set up?
1 over T plus 1 over T minus 2.
Yep.
Equals 1 over 5.
Correct. And this isn't written as a quadratic in standard form, but what is it? It is a what? It is a quadratic. It is a quadratic. Now, the quickest way to solve this, can someone give me the best thing I could multiply this by at the beginning right now? What could I multiply this whole thing by right now? T times T minus 2 times 5. If I multiply by that, what happens to all the denominators? They all cancel out. So what are you left with if you multiply? Oh, you end up with T minus 2 times 5 plus T times 5 plus, or equals, not another one, equals what? Equals? T minus 2. Is that in standard form yet? Not yet. Bless you. Plus 5t equals t squared minus 2t. Is that in standard form? Is it getting closer? Yeah. So what do we end up with here? We end up with, we have 10t minus 10 is equal to t squared minus 2t. So 0 equals t squared. How many t's are going to be on the left, on the right hand side? Minus what? 12t plus what? So you ask yourself, oh, is this in standard form? Mm-hmm. What do you always ask yourself first? Is it factorable? 0 equals t times t. What do we think? It's going to be 2 negatives? Yep. We try minus 5 and minus 2. Does it work? It doesn't really work. I mean, you try minus 5 and minus 2, but that's going to be minus 7t in the middle, not 12. It doesn't work, right? So we go, meh, frowny face, right? So if that doesn't work, what do we now do? If I asked you to, could you complete the square? Say yes. So we're going to use the quadratic. Can you tell me what A is, Milo?
A is 1.
Yes. What's B, Mar? Yes. And Emmett, what's C? Emmett, what's C? Correct. So Zoya, what do I find first when I'm using the quadratic formula? I find the, what's it called? The discriminant. And we know that the discriminant in the formula is what squared minus what times what, Zoya?
B squared minus 4ac.
Correct. So in this case, it's going to be negative 12 minus 4 times 1 times 10. So it's negative 12. Thank you. So is that hugely important? Yes. 144 minus 40 is what? 104. Now, is 104 a perfect square? No. So that's a good sign, because if it was a perfect square, it probably means the original thing was nicely factorable. So when you commit to using the quadratic formula and you get a discriminant that's not a perfect square, that's a good thing, because it means it wasn't nicely factorable. So therefore, if that's the discriminant, can someone tell me, who wants to volunteer, what does x equal if that's the discriminant? You have a, b, c, and the discriminant. 12 plus or minus all over 2 times 1. Yeah, I'm just going to write it out. Yep. 12 plus or minus the square root of, well, it's negative 12. So it's positive over 2. Because this right here was negative 12. So again, it's not negative b. What is the opposite of negative 12?
No, I got it.
Yeah?
Right, you just you wrote the same thing.
I did. I wrote it without the 1 in the denominator.
Minus 1 over 2.
I am, but I was just cleaning it up right there. I was doing that step right there. So at this point, the question asks you to round to the nearest tenth, I think. when you have to round to the nearest, it says right here, it says round your answer to the nearest tenth. What are you going to have to use at this point? You have to, right? So if I were to give you a question like this and ask you to go to the nearest tenth, I would give you a calculator, but you'd have to check 12 minus the square root of 104 over 2 and 12 plus the square root of 104 over 2 and see which one of them makes sense, right? One of them doesn't make sense. They're both positive, though. They're both positive. The thing is, let's just round. Let's just check these in our head. 104 is really close to what? 100, right? 100, right? So this is about a little bit greater than 10, right? So it's about 2 up here, right? What's 2 over 2? 1. Remember what we're solving for. Look in the chart. What are we solving for? T is the time it takes Terry to do the job, right? But how long does it take C to do the job? T minus 2, right? So if this is a little greater than 2, that's going to be like, oh, it's going to be a little less than 2 because 104 is greater. It's going to be negative. Can it take Terry a negative amount of time? No. So what's the only one we need to do? We need to do this one right here. Take out your calculator right now and do that for me right now. It tells us 152 square feet. It tells us that in there, right? So we need to write an equation that models that area, correct? It literally tells us in the question, if he plans for the walk to be of uniform width and cover 152 square feet. It tells us that in the question. I'm just highlighting it. Everything else in the middle, what's the blue part of this? That's the what? That's the pool. So you need to write an equation for that area. The area of the purple is the area of the whole thing minus the area of the blue.
Or plus.
Again, we're going to go with that. It's the area of the whole thing minus the area of the blue. How do you find the area of a rectangle? Length times width. So if this right here, I'll go to green here. If this right here is the length right here, if that's the length, can you tell me in terms of x, what does L equal? 24 plus what? Yes, plus 2x. Thank you. So it's 24 plus x plus x. Okay, so what else do we need if we want the area of the whole thing? We have L. What else do we need? We need this right here, right? The height, we'll call it the width. So, I'm sorry, when I said W, I meant to say walkway. That's what it meant. So,
what is the question asking for, though?
The question is asking this. If it has no walkway, there is no walkway area, correct? As you make the walkway wider, what happens to the area of the walkway? It gets bigger. So the question they're asking is, how wide do you need to make it so that the entire walkway has an area of 152 square feet? So, again, L is what? 24 plus 2x. What's the W? What's this height right here? 10 plus 2x. Exactly. So W is 10 plus 2x. Right? So what does this represent? So the area of all. What does area of all equal? 24 plus 2x times what? 10 plus 2x. But we don't want the area of the everything. We want to take away the what? The pool. So the walkway area, the area,
We're still studying it, though.
correct. The area of the walkway is going to be 224 plus 2x times 10 plus 2x minus what? 10 times 24. But we know what the area of the walkway is. What is it? 152. So you have 152 equals 24 plus 2x times 10 plus 2x minus 240. Because what is 240? 240 is the area of the what? It's the area of pool. And what is this right here? Area of what? No. It's the area of all. Yeah, the whole thing. If you have everything minus the pool, what are you left with? The walkway. So this right here is what you need to solve. Is that a quadratic? It is a quadratic. It absolutely is a quadratic. Is it in standard form? Please put it in standard form for me. You get, Nick?
I got 4x squared plus 68x.
4x squared plus what? 68x, yep.
Minus 152.
Minus 152 is equal to?
0.
Anybody agree with that? That looks good. Hold on. Again. It becomes x squared plus what?
17x minus 38.
Whenever you can get it down to something like this, this right here, you know what this is called? A good sign. That's a great sign to have.
X plus 19.
Yeah. So it equals 0. So x is either negative 19 or x is equal to 2. What did x represent up here? X represent the what? X was the what? Width of what? Walkway, right? So when you label it, what it means, you go down here and you're like, oh, there's two answers. Which one does it have to be? Better be 2, right? Negative 19 it like inverts itself and becomes a black hole, and all the universe ceases to exist. It's like why we can't get to 0 degrees Kelvin, because if we ever got to 0 degrees Kelvin, what would happen? End of the universe. No molecular movement. Cool stuff, huh?